So I would like to, if it's comfortable for you, to start in a seated position. To start in a comfortable seat. Okay, so that means you can sit on the floor without any support if you're comfortable that way. You can sit on a cushion or a couple of blankets. If that is enough support, for you to find an upright spine, a comfortable, no strain in the muscles of your spine or your hips. You can sit with your back against the wall. You can sit in a chair. You can sit any way you want to. You can take any comfortable seat. You can also start lying down if that just makes more sense to you. Your restorative practice means you get to start lying down, then you just lie down. But if you can sit comfortably, I'd like to just have you sit for the first couple of minutes. Okay. Let's begin there. So beginning in a seat, just, as a way to begin your yoga practice with the sense of what it's all, driving toward, leading toward, right? Which is just the capacity to cultivate inner stillness and inner quiet, some space to become more and more integrated with your kind of deeper self, higher self, however you like to think of that kind of source of self. If you can sit upright comfortably, often that is with some support underneath your hips, a cushion or something that will lift the pelvis enough to allow the hips to release and the legs to find their weightiness, legs to ground. Does that also give you space to breathe? Full, comfortable breath, no impediment here around the abdomen, the movement of your abdomen, your rib cage, your chest. If you have a meditation practice of any kind, this practice, this work at developing the skill of observing sensations that signal quality of presence. Versus distractions, thoughts that might signal a sense of being distracted, dissociated, a little bit checked out from this quiet, contemplative point of observation. Let it be an opportunity for you to welcome yourself into this space of your practice. To come back to the practice of scanning internally, of noticing and observing sensations and the qualities of sensations. And then we'll go ahead and set up a pose from here. And that will be a supported bound angle pose, supported Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. Soles of your feet together, knees wide, something underneath your spine, something supporting your head, something supporting the outer knees. Let's go there to begin. Whatever way prop setup that's kind of working for you as of late. As far as what combination of blankets and blocks and etc. bolsters you might be using. Okay, I'm just going to start with the bolster. The block in the middle of the bolster is going to support my head, and then a rolled up blanket is going to support my lumbar spine. And then I would like to have maybe a couple of blankets support my outer knees, and then a sandbag to put over my feet so that since I'm on the blanket, I'm going to have to fight my knees or my feet sliding out from under, sliding out toward the foot of the mat, sliding out of the pose. And then, but you could also just strap up, right? Okay. Take your time, as always, take your time, arranging yourself from maximum support, optimal support, right? You don't want to have any sense that your body has to work to keep you in the pose. So I'm just taking one sandbag. I'm just going to lay it over my 2 feet. My 2 feet are together. Supports under my knees, support behind my lower back, support under my spine, and support under my head. Good. So make sure this first pose well supported and very deeply welcoming. Whatever heavy loads you've been carrying this week, today, this week, come to your restorative practice, lay all of that down. So notice what you're feeling here initially as your body settles in together with your mind and your breath. Can you feel the beat of your heart? Can you feel the pulse, the rate of your pulse? So notice as you continue to breathe, you might even intentionally lengthen your out breath. Be comfortable, breath in, fill yourself up, and then just let that exhalation slide out. Long, slow, smooth exhalation. you're not looking for kind of maximum intensity, kind of maximum capacity. Let your breaths just like you've supported the body now so that the body isn't struggling or fighting, the body is comfortable and restful. Let the breaths mirror that sensation of restfulness. So we'll take another 3 or 4 breaths here. Okay, then we'll from here to start to come out, just let the feet and the legs come out first. Slide your feet out from under your props, out from over your props. And then we'll come to one side and move yourself from your spinal support, the support under your head. Bring yourself up. And so this, the next pose is lying down on your back, spinal twist. And take a few minutes to decide how you want to prop it up. And so what you would want to do first is just to take everything away. And come down onto your back. And then from there, to decide what you want to do with your legs, as far as whether you want to cross your leg or not, have knee over knee, or you're just going to come into the twist without any props at all. So your ankles come to stack. You might have one knee on top of the other knee, and then your opposite arm trying to reach back and get that back of that shoulder to fall to the floor. And so from here, right, just notice where the gaps are between yourself and the floor, right? Or between maybe this top knee and the bottom knee, if it feels like there is some tightness anywhere in the body that's keeping things to just kind of lie in a more kind of relaxed or slackened or heavy way. So I've got a little space up here right behind my opposite left shoulder. My knees are to the right, but I've got a little bit of space where that's just not quite meeting the floor in a heavy way like my right arm is. And so from there, then you'll just take whatever kind of minimum level of prop or cushion you can come up with to just fill in those little bits of gaps, right? If you've done any like carpentry work where you use little shims, right, to bring things level, you're putting a little shim, okay, where there are gaps between yourself and the ground, or between top knee, top leg, bottom leg. Sometimes it feels really nice to just cushion those bony landmarks. If you tend to have kind of bony joints, and bringing your ankles together, your knees together, just you could do with a little cushioning just to cushion the sensation of your bones rubbing up against one another. So you could take a long blanket. You could even, right, this is the beauty of having lots and lots and lots of stuff. So then you go from having no props to now I have an unfolded blanket back here underneath the opposite shoulder. And then when I come over with my knees, I've got a blanket under the bottom knee. So between the body and the floor, and then between my top ankle and knee and bottom ankle and knee. And then try it again. Just come back into your reclined twist. Sense where you are relative to what you want to have contact with, the parts of you want to feel contact, or just supported cushioning. And then we'll be there for a minute or two. So we'll take another 2 or 3 breaths on this first side. And then I'm going to bring this back opposite arm over. I'm going to come over onto this side where I am rotated toward where my knees are facing. And then pause there, breath, and then push myself up from my side. And then everything can just go over to the other side. So I've got like a Tadasana blanket on either side of my mat. So I've got one for my shoulder. And I'm going to take my long blanket in the other direction for my knees. Come down, back down onto my back. Cushioned underneath the outer bottom ankle, knee, blanket between the inner knees and ankles. Blanket underneath my back opposite shoulder. You may need different levels of support from one side to the other. Very normal. You might start again like we did the first side with no supports, no props. Feel along for where your gaps are and then support up from there. Let's take another 2 or 3 breaths in the pose. And so when you're ready to come out, again, if you like to just turn your whole self over onto the side where your knees are facing. We'll push up from there. Okay, and then side lying over your bolster next. Side lying over your bolster or whatever you are using in lieu of, in place of bolster. And as usual, an additional block to support your head if you don't want your head lower than your heart. And again, if you just enjoy the feeling of having more support or cushion under your joints or between your two joints of your legs, etc. Grab a blanket. Again, you can tuck a blanket in between your knees and your ankles as you lie down on your side. Side rib cage, wide right. Again, the wide is part of your rib cage. Sideways, right along what would be the side seam of your rib cage. If you were put together, if your rib cage was snapped together front to back. Side seam. Another 2 or 3 breaths in the pose. And you can go ahead and make your way up, or if you want to, take yourself a little bit forwards and a little bit back, and maybe roll yourself a little toward your heart and then a little bit toward your spine here, side to side, or you can take your arm, your hand kind of clockwise, counterclockwise, turn of your arm at the shoulder, and then come up and switch sides when you're ready to come up and change sides. Take your time as always, pause wherever you need to. When you want to pause, take a breath, come to sit for a breath or two, and then move yourself when you're ready. Like the reclining Buddha. Resting Buddha. Okay, 2 or 3 more breaths on this last side. Second side, 2 or 3 more breaths. And then take your time if you want to add those kind of last little movements across the side of your rib cage or around the shoulder. a breath or two and do a little additional mobility moves, and then press yourself up when you're ready to come up from there. Side lying, a forward bend. Okay, so yeah, I thought we would just follow that with a forward bend. I'm going to use a chair. I'm going to use a chair today. You can do a forward fold in any way that is kind of optimally supported, comfortable, and restful for you. Okay, so you know what all of those variations are at this point. You can always just kind of bring your knees over your bolster, block under your forehead. If your forehead doesn't quite fall to meet some support, you can cross your arms and just rest your forehead on your arms. Right, so you can do the same thing, more or less, seat of the chair. Your legs under the chair, or out to the sides of the chair, or legs folded into easy pose. And then your arms resting over the seat of the chair, your forehead resting on your arms. Give yourself enough space that when you come to fold, you feel a mild extension in your spine and also a mild sensation of extension behind the knees. You can slide a blanket behind the knees if that's too much intensity, the stretch of hamstrings. Okay. Yeah. Take your time finding the right support for your fold, and then we'll be here for a couple of minutes. Let the head rest. Make sure that you find a way to support your forehead. So all of this musculature, the neck muscles that support the neck at the base of the skull and then down into the shoulders, are feeling the release. Rest your forehead. If you want even to let your arms go, you don't have to have your arms up on the seat of the chair. As far as that goes, your hands can just rest on the floor. So let's take another couple of breaths in the pose. Push away from your supports with your hands. Use your hands to bring yourself off of your chair if you're using the chair, and then just send that. And we'll do a few minutes in a mountain goat pose, and then see what we have time for from there. Okay, so support for head, support for knees, and then the support for the mid-back, lower part of your rib cage. You guys notice my curtains? My curtains are really our sheets. A little more light in the room, a little more contrast between me and everything else. All the blankets, got all my beige blankets, put all my green blankets away. Okay, so mid-back support, head support, knee support. Shoulder blades on the floor. And then your folded blanket that comes right to the base of the skull, a little crook where your neck starts to become the base of your skull. Your arms set wide apart, let your arms rest. Feel the weight of the backs of your arms, the backs of your shoulders. This blanket, this low, long blanket supporting very mild lift in the lower rib cage. So you should feel a sense of this kind of lower front of the rib cage and the diaphragm muscle attachment, maybe even a little bit of the chest. Very mild lift and sensation of back bend. So we'll prepare to come out of the pose, to come off the props. I take one more breath here. Slowly to one side. Okay, and then, yeah, so I'm thinking Shavasana from here. We have 5 minutes. We have 5 minutes remaining, so let's go. Just leave it up to you, right, as far as what you would like to entertain prop-wise for Shavasana. I think I'm going to go to a long flat block that will lie underneath a long blanket. And that long blanket will cushion my head and support my spine. Support my spine. We'll just hold on to the blanket, the bolster rather, can you stay where it is? I might even like just the weight of another blanket over my shoulders and my torso. So I could just take just to have that kind of just sense of a little more kind of groundedness. If your arms are exposed, if your room is cool, just see what that feels like. Get rid of it if it just feels like too much. And just fall back in. Fall right back into that state of effortless ease in the breath. The breath, as it is part of the ease you might sense in your body. The breath connected to any sense of ease you might feel in your mind, the quality of your attention. Rest in the still, quiet spaces in between your exhale and your inhale. just keep returning. Keep returning to your watchful, observant mind self. If you sense yourself relaxing, resting more deeply, sense that all is in the embodied state that it is. Notice if it feels like fatigue or tiredness or sleepiness, or does it feel restful or relaxed? It can be one of those things. It could be a combination of those things. Be observant and discerning of the state of your own body, mind. So you might just start to let your head move from side to side. A few longer, deeper breaths here to start to close your practice. Bring yourself from this final relaxation pose. Upright. Seated posture. Take your time. Onto your side for a breath or two, and then up from your side. And back to your seat. Right, as always, you could. You might elect to sit. Just give yourself a few more minutes to sit. Spent an hour cultivating this sense of kind of deep inner space, calm, peace, stillness. If you want to stay for a few more minutes, it's a good time to give yourself a few minutes for meditation. We'll close our together practice here. So namaste. Thank you very much for your time. As always, look forward to seeing you again soon.